Vijay Narayan from fijivillage. My question is to Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum, Manua Kamikamida, and Professor Biman Prasad.
That's 3 questions.
No, one question for 3 to answer, specific answer. This is in relation to corruption and abuse of office. We had a constitution that came in 2013. For 9 years, Mr. Sayed-Khaiyum, Accountability and Transparency Commission, the Code of Conduct, and the Freedom of Information laws were not enacted. You were there for 9 years after the Constitution came in. Also, Mr. Kamikamida and Professor Prasad, you've been there since December 2022. Those 3 laws that are in the Constitution supposed to be enacted, still not enacted. We're talking about the economy, but if there's corruption and abuse of office and continuous acts such as this, we know where the wastage of our money, the taxpayers' money, will go. Why hasn't this been enacted?
The question by Vijay, I wish he was vociferous in many other things in the governance in the past 3 years. But the point is that the government previously enacted the FICAC Act. It ratified the United Nations Convention Against Corruption unreservedly. It also put itself up for the peer review program, which meant every year we had a review by a developing country and a developed country that came and assessed our compliance. We had, as you are correct, the Constitution talks about the Transparency Commission. You may recall that in fact we had tabled the bill. It was done in 2018. And it was tabled in 2018. The committee obviously took its time. And by the time it was still doing its work, the 2018 elections took place. So when a bill is being considered and Parliament then reconvenes after election, it lapses. So you have to reintroduce that into Parliament. And as you know, in 2019, towards the end, we had COVID. Now, we had also, as you know, enacted the Freedom of Information Act. Right to information, freedom of information. The Constitution actually is a provision, right to information, a right to correct information. Those provisions are already there. FICAC is there. Yes, of course, the Transparency Commission actually would have helped. Unfortunately, during COVID, we did not do that because there's no fiscal space also to do that. There are other areas that we were focused on. In 2022, we came out of COVID towards the end. So, of course, the government needs to introduce that particular bill. It brings about a new level of accountability. It extends also to board members. For example, we've seen now currently board members, a lot of the board positions are occupied by people who are failed candidates of various political parties. And we see the competency levels. So that has a huge impact. But yeah, I mean, that's the historical fact behind that. And now, the ball lies in the current government's court to introduce that particular bill to give ability. Now, the Freedom of Information Act, and in fact, the organization that was going to implement that was going to be the Transparency Commission. So if I, for example, applied for a taxi permit and I did not get it under the Freedom of Information Act, I have a right to know as to how the decision was made or what steps were taken to arrive at the decision. And that obviously has to be administered by a particular body, not by the organization from which you're trying to get information from, but an independent body, which would have been the Transparency Commission. So that's why when the Transparency Commission is actually set up, then that particular law will come into play.
Vijay's question, it was not for me, but just to say, that's exactly what politicians do. They promise us a lot and they don't deliver.
Vijay is right. I think we expected the Fiji First government to enact some of those legislations. Yes, we've been in government for the last 3 years. I can say that the bill is in Parliament, is before the committee, and the committee is working on it, and we are hoping that that will be enacted soon.